All right, this has been a lot of talk about games, but I think truly, Ian, this is about you. We met at Origins earlier this year. You were a cool guy. And I really wanted to just talk about you. Let's talk about you. Here's what I know about you from the internet.
Oh.
And hopefully it's not too creepy. Right? So I've been following why am I drawing a blank? Duelosaur Island, Pandasaurus.
Yep.
I saw Duelosaur Island and I was looking at thinking about the icon for Pandasaurus, and they were like a dinosaur as well too, and I'm like, Duelosaur Island. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Duelosaur Island came out. Jonathan Gilmour.
Mm-hmm. And Brian Lewis.
Brian Lewis, thank you. I was like Brian Adams. I'm like,
yep, with Brian Adams.
With Brian Adams. Comes out to critical acclaim. And then work begins on an expansion. And also a solo, or not a solo, but a 2-player variant called Duelosaur Island. Insert Ian Moss, the creator, developer of Duelosaur Island. From there, News at 11. You did some stuff with News at 11.
Yep.
Which was a Floodgate game.
Yep.
And now we have Wonderland's War.
Yes.
Wonderland's War, which is going to be, it's not Elf Creek, right? It's Druid City.
Druid City, yep.
Yeah, Druid City, yeah. So it's the Eisner brothers, you, and Jonathan Gilmour, which is, I think, kind of going off of the riff of the Grimm's Forest. Just saying. I think it is. A little bit. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But, Ian, I really want to be able to talk to you about your humble beginnings, because literally Duelosaur Island being one of the hottest games I think that had came out probably last year in March, or this year, I can't remember, to a sequel to this 2-player variant that I remember those guys being like, as soon as it was demoed to us, it was like they immediately knew it had to be going into this Kickstarter, right? Like, tell us about that. How abouts have you come into this position?
Well, let's
break it down. Start with the day. Like, you wake up and you're like, man, I have a great idea. I don't know.
I decided that it would be the best day ever to sell my soul to the devil.
Nice.
And then just go for it. And instead of something crazy, I was just like, yeah, board game designer. Let's do that.
Right?
And the devil's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do this. Sell my soul for cardboard and plastic die.
Right. No, it was actually, I started out as a graphic designer. And I've always been like a man of 1,000 hobbies. So like I can never stick to one thing. Like I've never been very good at staying in my lane. I'm always like, ooh, well, this is interesting. Ooh, well, this is interesting.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah, so I learned graphic design, I learned audio editing, I know video editing, like I can do After Effects, all of that fun stuff that is sort of related to graphic design. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't really done anything professionally. And then the place that I worked, which is a factory, one of the other people who worked there is game designer Jonathan Gilmour. Oh. We worked at the same
fancy that
factory together, and I had seen him because one of my 1,000 hobbies was board games. I'd seen him at our local shops and everything. Eventually we started talking, like, you like games, I like games, you work at this place, I work at this place, we should hang out. So he invited me because every month he has a game day at his house, mm-hmm. or at a building that he has rented out or whatever. And so there's a monthly game day he invited me to, so I started going to those. And at first I was just like, oh, there's so many people here, I don't know any of these people. But eventually, I started playing games with everyone, and they all became friends. And one, I don't know when, but at some point, John was going to do a print and play release for this game, and that was going to be his Christmas present to people, was just release this print and play on BGG for everyone. And it's just a fun, simple game that he made, and it was called Family Trip, because the whole the whole tagline was that once you have kids, you no longer take vacations, you take trips.
Right.
um, so it was all about like meeting the need, like trying to have a good vacation, but also meeting the needs of your children who are just barraging you with their needs the entire time. Um, he needed someone to do graphic design. I mentioned it's like, hey, I can do that. So I started to do graphic design on his game, and he like sent me the files and like this is what I need, and like I was looking over and I was like, man, this is like there's like nothing flashy going on here. This is all just like paper and like spreadsheets and everything. And I was like, man, this seems kind of easier than I thought it would be. I had no idea what went into making games. So while I was doing that, I started having ideas for a game while I was making the graphic
Mm-hmm.
design for that. And I didn't know who else to tell that to, so I told John. I was like, hey, I have ideas for a game. So what should I do? Like, what do I do with them? He's like, write them down, just make a thing, and we meet up every 2 weeks at our local shop, and there's like a group of us, a group of designers. We meet up every 2 weeks. Just come to that. Bring your game. It doesn't have to be good. Just bring it. So I did that, and then that sort of spiraled on from there.
Right.
um,
And is that Duelosaur as we know it right now, or is that something else?
that was something else. So I've
Okay.
technically been designing games for I want to say 4-ish years. And the funny part is that Duelosaur was nowhere near my first game that I had worked on, or that I'd had ideas for, and actually it was that one ended up being the first one that's going to be released. Besides
Right.
News at 11, right? Like News at 11 is
Okay.
obviously that's my first solo one that's going to be released is Duelosaur Island.
Right.
But News at 11 was actually because there's a group of us getting around to like enter into a competition that J.R. Honeycutt and Nerd Nighters were having. They were
Mm-hmm.
going to send you this like thing from Panda Manufacturing. It was going to have some components in it. You have to make a game out of it, and then they'll pick some of those, and that person would win that contest and be able to pitch their game to whoever or whatever it was. So
Right.
we're like, oh yeah, let's do it. So the day that we were supposed to get that little kit from Panda, it didn't show up.
Mm.
And we were waiting on JR to release a video of what all components were actually going to come in that. And then while we were waiting for that to happen, we made News at 11.
Okay.
So it's very
All
much
right then.
like, and then the game we ended up making wasn't very good, but we got News at 11 out of it. And then a couple years down the line, after testing it and taking it to conventions and everyone being like, man,
Mm-hmm.
this is like the most fun you could have with a group of people. Ben Harkins of Floodgate decided to co-publish it with Infectious Play
Mm-hmm.
because John was originally going to publish it himself,
Right.
but then that didn't work out, so he wanted to co-publish it. So then Floodgate picked it up, threw it on Kickstarter, it funded, got it out
Yep.
to the backers. It's in stores now,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then yeah, so fast forward to Dinosaur Island, which because I'm in John's local playtest group, him and Brian brought that and we played it and we're like, man, this is a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on in this game. And
Yeah.
that's when there was like 300 more components than there are in the final game. So like
Really?
just
Wow.
imagine Dinosaur Island with 300 more things. I'm not going to say it
Nope.
was worse, it was just a lot more.
Sure.
Um, but since I had playtested
Fiddledy Island.
yeah, since I had play tested it a bunch, I knew the inner workings and stuff, and since it like was a smash on Kickstarter, I assumed that there was going to be like this influx of like John's making all these dinosaur themed games now. Um, so I was asking him after I think like an Origins one year, like, hey, what Pandasaurus stuff are you making now? He's like, oh well, there's going to be like this for Wasteland Express and probably this other thing that could be Wasteland Express, and there's like 3 or 4 things for Pandasaurus, and then he's like, oh yeah, and then like the Dinosaur Island expansion. But I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't there more Dinosaur Island stuff? Like that's the world I want to explore.
Right.
Like I want more Dinosaur Island type games. I think that game is brilliant, and I think that world is just itching for more content. Um, so yeah, so I asked him, I was like, hey, do you mind if I take a crack at something like for that? And he's like, yeah, if you want to co-design it or something, we can try it. And I started having ideas and stuff, and so I was messaging him and Brian, talking to him about it, and I was like, I think I want to do like a 2-player, because there's all
Mm-hmm.
these 2-player implementations of these big box games. So I was like, what if there was that for Dinosaur Island? And they're like, yeah, do you want to try it yourself, or do you want us to help out? And I was like, let me take a crack at it myself, and then if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, I would love to co-design with you guys. Like that would be perfect. Because they were working on the expansion at the time, so I didn't want to like overload them either. But I
Yeah, absolutely.
made a prototype, showed it to him, and he was like, "Man, this is really good. This works." I was
Nice.
like, "Awesome." He's like, "We need to get this in front of Nathan and Molly
Right.
of Pandasaurus." So I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." So like that next Gen Con, I believe, we showed it to them, and they were very much upfront of like, "Yeah, we'll look at this. Like it's fine. We will
Mm-hmm.
definitely look at this." They had no intention of making it, like you said. But then they played it, and they were like, they were kind of upset because they were just like, well, now we have to make this game.
Right. How exciting was that for you to be able to have someone like Jonathan Gilmour, who's done Dead of Winter, um, basically be like, dude, this is awesome, and brings it to Pandasaurus. Like that to me, I think had got to have been a special moment for you to being like, oh, like this.
It
That's
was,
fantastic.
yeah, it was, like I didn't know how to take that. Like I didn't know if he was just being nice because it was a thing that had Dinosaur Island on it, and he didn't want to be mean, you know. And I was
Sure.
just like, are you sure? Like, is he telling me the truth, right? Like, is this? But then too many people said that they really enjoyed it for me to be like, all right, he can't have paid all of these people to be nice. But no, yeah, it was definitely the project that was good to begin with. Like most games get there, you know, you have the idea that's good, but this one was
Yeah,
actually like this one worked from like version 2 on.
that's awesome. Um, so Dinosaur Island second printing with Totally Liquid with Duelosaur hits over $1 million.
Yeah.
$1 million. I think I remember seeing tweets from you saying how insane it was to see this thing climb. It's like 800, 900, like $1 million. Like,
Yeah, I was doing a thread for every like 100k that it hit, and eventually I had to just like stop. Like I was it was too much. Like I legitimately couldn't handle how successful that was.
it's
And
so nuts.
they had no idea. Like they had some idea, right? Like they knew it was going to be a
Right,
hit, but I don't think
right.
anyone really thought that it was going to be as massive as it turned out to be.
Yeah,
But I like that is not to say that they aren't super smart at Pandasaurus. Like they are very intelligent. They made a product that was literally for everyone.
mm-hmm.
Here's this game. If you didn't get it the first time around, you really can't get it in stores right now. Back it here. If you already have the
Right.
game, here's this expansion that adds all this super cool stuff that you're going to want with this
Yep,
deluxeified version you can only get on Kickstarter. Grab that. Don't like those bigger games? How about a two-player game
yep,
that, you know, plays in less time, smaller setup, and then the dice, even if you have the other games, are usable in both.
yep.
So like they made a product that worked for literally every consumer that you could think of.
That's very true. Now, I think it's within. They're very close. Like it's on the boat, isn't it?
Yeah, people are starting to get their dinosaur islands, and I
Right.
believe that production is finishing or is finished by the time I say that sentence, or by the time people will hear that sentence of the other
Yeah.
two games. So it is
Okay.
definitely still on track for November.
Very good. Yeah. And that's always kind of the hardest part is like watching which I had no idea until a few months ago that there are boat trackers. So if you really really want to, and if the publishers do it, you can actually click a link and see the boat and its name and see where it is amongst the billions of other boats that are out there in the sea.
Right.
Which to me, when you look at it, it's like, holy crap! I didn't realize there's so many boats out there.
Yeah,
Right?
I had seen people talking about it in the comment section because that was like it was a roller coaster ride of a 30 days for that Kickstarter, or like
Yeah.
39 days. I think it was a longer campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I think that was also part of the genius is that like you had time to hear about it and then get in. And so yeah, I was real active in the comments, like, oh, this is super, like this is my first Kickstarter, you know,
Yeah.
which I guess News at 11 was my first Kickstarter, but this
Right.
was like
This
a
was like
different
the
level.
Yeah, that absolutely. Well, congratulations again to you, John, and the rest of the team. Pandasaurus, Nathan and Molly are great people. Got a new PR guy for them too, I think, for Pandasaurus, right?
Yep. Hunter
What's
Shelburne.
Yeah, I think he's gonna do. I think he's gonna do great. I think he's gonna take off. Like so both Nathan and Molly, as you know, and for the rest of the people there, they like work their butts off, and
Hmm.
I think that now they can finally get a little bit of relief because they were running all social media, doing all the publishing, like doing all that kind of stuff. So they
Yep.
definitely, I think, deserve to bring someone on board to help them out. So
Which was
again, that's
it was a lot of people didn't realize that it was just them. Like
oh yeah,
it was a
two
two-person
people.
team, and they've
Yeah.
accomplished with just two people is like it. They deserve awards that no one's giving to anyone. So
Well, that and like even going backwards, Wasteland Delivery, no,
Wasteland
Wasteland.
Express Delivery Service.
Thank you. Yeah, Weds. Um, like like the amount of game trays, the amount of punch, like the amount of effort that went into probably producing all that kind of stuff is just,
Hmm.
yeah. Again, with two people, that's
Yep.
insane. Yeah. Again, those are really cool people. So, Dinosaur Island, Totally Liquid, Duelosaur. We've talked about News at 11. Now going back a little bit too, we talked about Infectious Play. So recently, and I actually stopped in on a few occasions when I can at work, is that you and Jonathan actually host Facebook live streams of you drinking coffee.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us about the coffee aspect of this because now I kind of want to try the coffee that you try because you guys I think are very like I mean you're very professional about I think when you taste the coffee I mean you're like you really explore I think the different notes of fruits
Right. And
and things you can find. But talk to us about Infectious Play and what you're doing. Are you officially with Infectious Play or how's
um,
that all going down?
my official job title is Office Hero. Uh,
Nice.
and because John and I both do it full time, we sort of share an office. And I also sort of am helping him out with the day-to-day stuff, so he can basically focus on the game design aspects of game
Hmm.
design, and not have to worry about making all the prototypes, dealing with all that extraneous stuff. We're gearing up for some Pandasaurus playtesting stuff again, and
Hmm.
so I was helping him out with that. There's some things that needed made and cards and stuff, so I was doing all of that. But yeah, since we were sharing the same office, since we were working together, we're like, man, we should start doing live streams.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, that'd be super cool. Like we've seen all these people do live streams on Facebook. Like Board Game Spotlight does it. Meeple Syrup has started doing theirs on Facebook,
All right.
and it seemed like from I had talked to Derek Funkhauser of Board Game Spotlight, and I asked him how easy it was, and he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you just get this one program, get OBS, and then this and that." And
Yep.
he was telling me about all of it, and I was like, "This actually does seem pretty easy." Like part of my skill set is within these boundaries of video editing, audio editing, image manipulations and stuff like that. So live streaming also fits into my wheelhouse of things that I know how to do. So I was like,
Right.
"Yeah." So we started doing like a Friday live stream where we'll play like a board game or a video game. And one of the things that we said was like, I really don't want this to be work, so we should just play whatever we want to play.
Right.
Like, we're not sponsored by anybody, so if we want to take the week and play Dead Cells or, some crazy dating sim video game, we can. And the thing we haven't done yet that we keep talking about is like we want to do a Lego stream where we just build Legos and hang out with people, because John has like 40 Lego sets that he has bought but hasn't built yet. So we want to do that eventually too. It's just whatever we want to do that week, we'll just do with very minimal like forethought.
Sure.
And so the coffee ones was we had just gotten this like sample pack from this company called Bones Coffee Company. Not sponsored by them or anything, but if they want to.
Send a few bags their way.
Right. And it came with like these it's like five like 1 ounce bags, or probably I don't remember. This sample bags of coffee.
Okay.
So we're like, oh, we should do is like one of us makes it and just has the other one taste it and like try and figure out which flavor it is. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, we should live stream that. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. So it just sort of spawned from there of just like, yeah, let's just make more content.
Yeah.
let's work, but also have fun. Like we can call it work technically, but
Sure.
but yeah. And so we started doing that, and Bones has an almost unlimited number of flavors of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So we've really just been getting content from them consistently because every time we get low, we'll just order another five that we haven't tried. There's probably still about 15 flavors that we haven't tried yet.
Oh wow. Very quickly, what's been your favorite flavor?
I think our favorite was Bananas Foster. I think the next
Ooh.
time we ordered, we just got a full bag of that one. We're just like, yep, just order that with it because it was real good.
And that's local to you guys, right? That whole company, or are they from out of state?
I believe from out of state. I'm not sure exactly where. I just
Okay.
remembered we had seen an ad or something for it and just decided to order the coffee because we drink a lot of coffee in the office.
Let them know, man. Give them a little ad at Twitter, dude.
Yeah,
I think they'd be down. I think they'd be down. That's exciting. I've been able to hop in. Like I said, I just like see you guys just hanging out. You have coffee mugs in your hand, just hanging out, drinking coffee, talking about like answering people's questions.
yep.
And I think like last time you guys were at least hitting double digits with your viewer numbers, which like those beginning parts can sometimes be really frustrating because it's like you're kind of talking to no one. It's like you're talking to like this void that
Right.
eventually like one person will come and be like, ooh, okay, and then this like they click off because they have to do whatever.
Hmm.
But it seems like now you've got like those staple people coming in and hanging out with you, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Continue to do it. um you recently played, so like you said, you played not only board games, but you played Dead Cells, and you played Mansions of Madness on there as well too, right?
Hmm.
Second edition. How did that go?
That went really well. That was probably my favorite game of Mansions of Madness I've ever played. I
Nice.
think
What
it was, I don't remember the name of the scenario, but you're going into, I believe, this manor. This officer has invited you here because all these people have gone missing, and the only
Okay.
common thread to them going missing is that they've all stayed at this manor at some point in that past month before they went missing.
Okay.
So you go in there, and obviously things are crazy. Like you're finding all these pages of this notebook that are written by the officer who's invited you there. But like then when you meet up with him, you show him the pages, and he's like, "That wasn't me. I can't be me." He's like, "Yeah, but it's your
Right.
handwriting. That's your signature." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't remember writing that." So like all this weird stuff's going on and everything. But I think the chat plus the playing the game and like reading it everything out loud and going through all of that, and it's a very thematic game that really just brings you in. I think the playing it on live stream makes it better. Like it made that
Mm-hmm.
experience more interesting. Um, because people were like, "Oh yeah, I love this scenario," or "Oh, this is so much different." And that's one of the things about Mansions of
Yeah.
Madness is, even if you've played the same scenario, you can just watch someone play it because it's not going to go the same way as the thing that yours did.
Right. What's one of my favorite games, if not my most favorite game of all time. I think second edition, the app just hits the sweet spot in terms of doing a lot of the heavy lifting that Mansions of Madness first edition made clunky. Um,
John called it his
and
favorite unplayable game.
Nah, right? I mean, I think that's a great way to describe it. And so, yeah, I'm glad he had a great time. Again, I'm actually going to Arkham Knights, speaking of which.
Oh, cool.
Arkham Knights is hosted by Fantasy Flight every October, and they basically take the back room or the back, I don't know if you've ever been to the Fantasy Flight game studio or the game center, but they have like this huge, like kind of open gameplay area, and they just fit anything Arkham themed there. You can go play with developers, play with volunteers, and they offer a lot of like unique special stuff for Arkham fans like myself. Like I'm even looking at prints of Arkham right now on my wall. Yeah, I just love it. I adore it. I've had to cull a little bit of my collection of it because it's just like collection. It turned into nothing extremely valuable to me. It just always like was looking at potential fun that I knew I was never going to play. So it's
Right.
like, all right, I can get rid of Elder Sign. I can get rid of all of these Eldritch Horrors expansions. Just kind of keep the base set and enjoy it. But I still haven't been able to get rid of any of Mansions of Madness. I have everything Mansions of Madness second edition related.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, what a great game. I like it so much. So let's talk about, or hopefully we can talk about Wonderland's War. So this has got to be probably when I saw that teaser poster for it. I mean, like your last name, like P. If it's like Moss, Gilmore, Eisner Brothers. Like this is like straight up legit, like straight up tease, like movie poster, like straight from Disney.
Right.
It seems like all right, just give me some sort of morsel about
Well,
Wonderland's
I mean,
War.
you'll never guess what James Hudson's former job used to be if you see his marketing posts, right? Like you would never
Right.
guess that was a thing that he used to do professionally. He is so good at it. Like, um, so what I can say about Wonderland's War? Well, he's talked about it on a couple of his live streams, just on Druid City, or
Okay.
James does live streams on Facebook also. It's
Oh,
very
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, so lately it's mostly been Tidal Blades, but yeah, he has done some where he's talked about Wonderland's War. So Wonderland's War is it's sort of a game of two halves that
Mm-hmm.
are connected. The first half is a worker placement game. So you're
Okay.
going around and you're sort of like gearing up for this war that is going to happen. Like this war is inevitable. Wonderland is a very different place than what you knew. Like all the same players are there, but
Sure.
alliances aren't exactly what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there are four factions. There is Alice and her rebellion. There is the Hatter's Tea Party. There is the Jabberwock and the sort of beasts of Wonderland. And then there's the Red
Mm-hmm.
Queen and obviously her card army. Um, and they're all gearing up for this war that's going to be happening. So you're going around in the first half and you have this worker placement, and when you go to places is very relevant. It's either going to give you more or less things depending on how many other people have already sort of, ravaged it.
Okay. Oh, sure. Right. So scouring mechanism, I suppose. Sure. Potentially.
Yeah, it's sort of like a surge, and then there's a break point. Like more, nothing basically.
Right.
like,
Okay.
uh, well, it's never nothing. It's always like a minimal. You get more, less.
So you have to pick and choose like what you want to decide to scour versus getting the secondaries or tertiary things eventually before it loses its intrinsic value or its
right.
maximum value. Sure. All right.
So one of the main things, and the thing that I think I can probably talk the most about, is the Wonderlandians.
Okay.
So the denizens of Wonderland are really sort of not on anyone's side at the start of the game, and you sort of need to interact with them to sort of convince them that you are the side that they need to back during the war. So every time you go and interact with a Wonderlandian, you can either say, "Hey, I'm going to give you these resources and sort of gain influence with you, and also I get this ability when I do that," or
Mm-hmm.
you can say, "Hey, I'm going to do this negative interaction with you because I don't care if you're on my side."
Right.
So whoever takes a negative interaction with a Wonderlandian will end up like they can no longer influence that Wonderlandian. They have like stolen the White Rabbit's pocket watch, or they've pushed Humpty Dumpty off of the wall, or what have you. They've done a really jerk thing to this person, gotten a very big benefit from it, a very good action.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
But they can no longer interact with that Wonderlandian. And then whoever gets
Mm-hmm.
that Wonderlandian is the person with the most and who has influenced them the most at the end of the first half.
Got
So
it.
then they will take them and they'll actually be a character that they get to use in the second half of the game. So the second half of the game is an area control game. But the only thing is that your workers are not your soldiers. The
Okay.
people you have working for you are not the people who are going to fight your war. So what you need to do is you need to like train your soldiers and like convert your worker into soldiers. And the sooner you
Okay.
do this, the more soldiers that you get from it. So
Got
it's
it.
sort of like this weird looking glass thing where you get a conversion rate of like one worker equals like 6 soldiers.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
um, but then yeah, like I said, the sooner you do it, the more it's worth. So like the sooner you turn your workers into soldiers, the more you get out of it. But the less workers you have for the first half. So you're doing less things on
Right.
your turn, during the first half to do more things, to have more soldiers for the second half. So the second half is
Mm-hmm.
the area control game, and in the area control, you are sort of taking all the things that you've gathered in the first half and just sort of using them in the second half. So you're sort of trying to, again, try and get these resources that are only there on the second half and sort of take control of these different areas, which will give you points or give you the resources that you can use to sort of rally your troops and get them to
Mm-hmm.
be stronger or move farther or whatever it is that they need to do. And you're trying to take control of different areas, because the more you take control of the same area, the less it's worth. The more you take control of
Right.
other areas, the more you spread out, the better. But the more you
Mm-hmm.
spread out, the more vulnerable you are.
Okay.
So I think that's about all I can say. That's a general overview.
You don't realize that like that was a good long like I think. I mean, I thought that was just like you're gonna be. It's like this two-faced thing. No, I think you did a really great job. I think in terms of giving me and the listeners a sense of what this is gonna be,
Mhm.
which sounds fantastic. Each I don't know if you can speak to this, but with each kind of faction, with Alice and the Jabberwockies, etc. How is it? Obviously, play is influenced by what you do in this first half. Do each of them kind of have like asymmetric ability in terms of like Alice can do this thing better than say the Jabberwockies, or does each kind of function the same in that you're basically kind of beginning the game deciding I'm going to play this route or that route, or is there like a uniqueness to each sort of like clan or war thing that you're kind of a part of? Can you speak to that at all?
There's definitely a bit of asymmetry, and
Mm-hmm.
it functions in both halves of the game. Um, so in the worker half, your worker, like your faction, like Alice, you'll have an Alice miniature that can do things in the worker half as well as the other
Mm-hmm.
workers. And there is sort of special abilities and different resources that they will get. And then in the war half, they're your general now. Like they're leading your armies and leading your
Yeah.
soldiers, so they have definite general abilities uh, that are special and not general.
Sure. 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 Um, and I don't know if this would be. I'm definitely getting, and maybe this has gone around the office or whatever, but I definitely get senses of Root. In that Root has definitely like four different factions. They play differently. Like
Mhm.
they move differently. They kind of score differently. So you kind of have like these four little mini games going around here. Would you say that, or can it be spoken to whether or not like that's a similar concept that you have going on with Wonderland's War, or are you looking at this being a bit more like this one? This Alice figure is unique in its own way, but kind of how the rest of the whole faction plays out is going to be similar to every player on the board.
Yeah, I think it's more based on the character that you have,
Yeah.
and the rest of the play is a little bit more standardized to what everyone is doing. But the second half, like it is a bit asymmetric in the way that like you're building your army and your forces and everything in the first half. So like
Mm-hmm.
the decisions that you make in the first half of the game will sort of decide how the second half of the game is going to play out for you. Like, are you going
Right.
to try and get more soldiers? Are you going to have more tricks up your sleeve than the other
Mm-hmm.
players and just be able to be more unpredictable? Or are you going to like try and get as many Wonderlandians onto your side as possible to use them to help you win in conflicts?
Sure. Um, so obviously there's a total of four designers coming on board of this game. Um, what would you say brings out the like what part of the design do you hope that shines the most, that shows like this is the Ian Moss part of the game, right? um what, like, how sometimes like Bruno Feduti has like the numbers 0 through 9, 1 through 10, and he kind of makes a game developed around that, almost like an auteur, like having like that part of his auteur,
Okay.
like that signifies who Bruno Feduti is. Like,
Hmm.
how would you say, like, or maybe it's, I don't know if it's too early, or if you're still kind of finding that, but what makes an Ian Moss game an Ian Moss game? Or like what elements of it could we find in Wonderland's War? Kind of a loaded question, but I really want to maybe get a sense of like when people play Wonderland's War, like what part of it is Ian Moss, or like when they play a Duelosaur game, like, you know, what part of that really makes it and punches it at home that like this unique aspect of it is this designer, if that makes sense.
I think one of the things that I really like wedged into this game. I don't want to say wedged because it fit perfectly, but it was the way the Wonderlands interact and the effect that has on the game.
Okay.
So
Sure.
interacting with the Wonderlands in the second half of the game, there are events which will happen. And normally, you know, they're just sort of things that'll just twist the game and be like, oh, well, now you can't do this, or now everyone gets this bonus. So like it throws a wrench into your plans. But every Wonderlandian that is in the game will add one of their event cards to that deck. And if they come up, what happens is they do a positive thing. They either do a positive thing to the player who controls them, who influence them the most, or they'll do a negative thing for the person who's a jerk to them.
Got it.
So I really like that, the story of that, and I really like the narrative in games. So I feel like that is one of the major contributions that I've been able to throw in, is that
Sure.
that extra loaded decision of like, if I'm mean to this person, there is a chance that they will come back and bite me, you know, like.
Sure. Definitely like your Mass Effect, like, you know, make, what is it? The trial of choices.
Right.
Like, you know, what you say and do will come back, and it definitely is a gamble. Anything else? Like, can we, as far as it is in development, are we still early on? Is there like bubbling a time for whether this is going to be Kickstarter or retail release? Can you say anything to that at all?
All of the teaser images have said that it's coming to Kickstarter in 2019.
Okay.
As far as actual dates, I'm not sure. We are like running it through. Like, we sort of we're doing this nice like hot potato thing where the Eisners will rock on it for a bit if we get stuck on something, and then they'll toss it over to us, we'll rock on it, and then once we get it to a good spot, we both start playtesting it and then start like combining our feedback together. So it's really just sort of like we're passing it back and forth to solve these different problems, and it's really been like, the game is 1,000 times better for the process that we've had of just be like, hey, why don't you guys try this? We've been having issues with it. And be like, hey, this didn't work for us, but this did, and so we'll try it. And so like what comes from that, like the in between of like having two teams of two designers basically working on a project has been really interesting, and it's worked in the favor of the game, and hopefully for everyone who gets to play it.
So that was going to be my last question, was having 4 developers on a game, like how does it work in terms of, like, it seems like it's pretty harmonious in that, yeah, Eisner Brothers go ahead, they rock on it, as you said, they get stuck on something, they pass it on to you, you and John take a look at it and be like, oh, let's try it this way, play, test, develop, there you go, and it kind of goes back and forth. So that's awesome to hear, because it seems like there's definite possibility that like there's something that you guys really like, that the Eisner brothers come back and be like, well, this is not kind of how we thought this would work.
Right.
And it seems as though right now, as I said earlier, like seems as though all 4 of you are on sync. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, we have a very singular vision on what the game is going to end up being. Like, the things that we want to see in a final, like John is very experienced first. So like, it's not theme, it's not mechanics. It is, what do we want the players to feel? And the 4 of us have, like, our very first video call was like going over what experience we want the players to have. And so that's kind of how we work. So as long as we know that, and we just have to make sure that all of our decisions are pointing us in that direction.
That's fantastic. I think we're getting upwards to an hour and a half. I think we've had, like, I was like, this is only going to be an hour. Don't worry about it. We'll get you out of here. We've had a lot of great talk, so I think we should start wrapping up here.
Yeah.
So final items. Anything like you wanted to comment, say, shout outs to your peeps? I don't know. Just like any kind of final words.
Like I said, I'd remembered when we first started talking about doing this, I was just like, yeah, it'd be great. We'll schedule this for later because then I might be able to talk about more things than I would if we were to talk
That's
like
right.
that
Yeah, I
same
remember
week
that. Yep.
when we first started discussing this. And it'd been a couple months since then. And so, like, since then, obviously, Wonderland's War has cropped up. So now I can talk
Yep.
about that.
Right.
Marshall Britt and Marshall from Yanaguana Games, and I are
Okay.
working on this game called the HRPG, which is basically our way to gamify business cards. Um,
Okay. Oh, okay, okay.
so yeah, that's the thing that we've been working on. Marshall's been talking about a lot because he does like a Monday Mug Mentions stream, which is like half our
Mm-hmm.
inspiration for doing our coffee stream. Is that
Nice.
but his is very structured and ours is just very loose. So like I feel like we're not really pushing him out of the his he gets way more viewers than we do anyway, so he's in no trouble.
Matter of time. It's only a matter of
All
time.
right. So yeah, so I've been working on that one with him, and that one it's just a lot of fun. That's like my fun project, like that I'll just throw time into when I get stuck on something else. I'll just be like, oh, time to make some weird, crazy monsters, or oh, what if this dungeon worked like this, And
Mm-hmm.
uh, so yeah, so there's like a Facebook page for that one if you want information, and they're working on it.
Sure.
And then the other one, this is very relevant to this week, and whenever this comes out, it'll probably be more relevant. um, but Tidal Blades. I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw the first artist diary from Tim and Ben,
Mm-hmm.
but Wonderland's War again is one of those items where it is not the first project with the Eisners that we are doing. It's just the first that got
Oh.
announced.
Okay.
Um, But Mr. Cuddington, who's doing the art and obviously the world building for Tidal Blades, has
Yep.
mentioned in their artist diary on BGG that this is part one of a series of games. Now,
Nice.
half of the reason that the Wonderland's War thing happened is because part one, the Eisners are doing.
Yep.
Part two, John and I are doing.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be a sort of story driven dungeon crawler.
You got. Oh, we just talked about Manchester Madness. Now you're dropping this on me, dude. Seriously, I'm interested. Not to fanboy or anything on it, but I'm color me interested. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm sure they're going to be dropping more and more tidbits of information as it goes on. But that was one of the things that we had already been in talks with the Eisners for various reasons. So the
Yeah.
Wonderland's War project was just sort of like an inevitable meeting of the minds.
Right. Dude, that's fantastic. Congratulations again on all the different projects that have now opened up for you. Again with Dinosaur Island and all that kind of stuff. That's been awesome. In homage to my co-host, who again is not able to make it, to kind of sign off the stream, he always does a quick lightning round of questions. So first thing that comes to your mind with these questions, they aren't going to be like, well, I don't know. He's a weirdo. Not gonna lie. Some of the I'm gonna try to recall the questions he does state, but I think to do a lightning round of quick questions is going to be my offering of him being present with us today. So let's get started. Okay,
All
you
right.
ready? You
Yes.
ready? Ready? Let's go. I forgot it already. NSYNC. No. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Backstreet Boys, unfortunately.
Oh gosh. Okay, fine. Moving on. Britney Spears or the other one? Uh,
Christina Aguilera.
yep.
Christina Aguilera.
Okay, that's fine. No, you're good. Best favorite board game of all time.
Roll for the Galaxy.
Ooh, that's a good one. What else? Favorite sport.
Hockey.
Favorite hockey team.
Detroit Red Wings.
Nice. There's like one more. He like asks what your age is, and I'm like, I don't. That doesn't matter. That's totally okay. I have to think of one more. Favorite band.
Coheed and Cambria.
Nice. All right, that does it. That's the lightning round. Ian, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This
This
was
this
great.
this has been an hour and 35 minutes that flew by.
Yeah,
You're welcome back anytime.
of course.
You and John will maybe make it a quad podcast.
If you just want a bunch of people talking at once, just get all four of us. The Eisners
in a
just blah,
hangout.
blah, blah.
Yeah, so that Eisner's, you, John, myself, Jacob. Yeah, that would be just that would be a mansion of madness, literally. All right, we're signing off. Thanks everybody for listening. Ian, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.